There is a photograph that circulated quietly on a Dubai property forum in early 2025. It shows the underside of a villa on the Palm Jumeirah, not the polished exterior facing the Arabian Gulf, not the Instagram-ready infinity pool cantilevered over the water. The underside, the concrete, and what you see there is not what you were sold. Cracked render, visible rebar, waterlogged joints where frond meets the sea. The kind of structural fatigue you associate with a building that is 30 years old and poorly maintained. The Palm Jumeirah was completed in phases between 2006 and 2010. Some of those villas are not yet 20 years old. That photograph did not make international news. It was dismissed in comment threads as isolated, as cherry-picked, as the work of disgruntled residents or competitors. But the people who dismissed it the loudest were often the same people with the most money tied up in the island. Because the real question that photograph raises is not whether one villa has concrete problems. The real question is structural. It is systemic. It is this. What happens when the world's most famous real estate icon stops being a symbol of the future and starts being a liability with a waterfront address? That is what this video is about. And if you have been watching this channel because you want the kind of analysis that goes past the press release and into the data, past the render and into the rebar, then you know what to do. Subscribe before we go further, because this is the kind of story that takes time to tell, right? The Palm Jumeirah was, at the moment of its conception, genuinely extraordinary, not because it was luxurious. Luxury was already everywhere in Dubai by 2001. It was extraordinary because it was impossible. No one had ever reclaimed that much land from open sea in a residential configuration. No one had ever tried to engineer a functioning neighborhood on a man-made archipelago in the Arabian Gulf, a body of water that is shallow, hot, hypersaline, and biologically active in ways that infrastructure engineers still do not fully understand. Nakheel, the state-linked developer behind the project, did it anyway, and when the first residents moved in, the world watched with a combination of awe and envy that drove real estate inquiries from Moscow to Manchester to Mumbai. At peak frenzy. In 2007 and 2008, individual plots on the Palm were changing hands for prices that had no rational anchor other than the belief that the story was permanent. That belief was the product. The Palm was not just a place to live. It was proof that audacity could be monetized indefinitely. And for a while, the numbers seemed to confirm it. In 2022, the Palm recorded some of the highest residential transaction values in Dubai's history. A penthouse sold for 302 million dirhams, at the time equivalent to approximately $82 million, setting a record that reverberated across global wealth media. The Knight Frank Wealth Report of 2023 ranked the Palm among the top 5 ultra-prime residential addresses in the world. It appeared on every list of places where the ultra-wealthy were parking capital. The story was holding. It was accelerating. But stories that appear to be accelerating sometimes are. And sometimes, the acceleration is the last visible sign before something stops. Here is where the numbers start to complicate the narrative, and where it is worth being precise, because precision is the only thing that separates analysis from opinion. According to data published by the Dubai Land Department and tracked independently by Property Monitor, average transaction prices on the Palm Jumeirah fronds, which are the residential fingers of the island as distinct from the trunk and crescent, peaked in mid-2023 and have shown a pattern of softening since. This is not a crash. It is not even a correction by the dramatic standards Dubai has experienced before. What it is, according to analysts at ValueStrat, is a divergence. On a price per square foot basis, properties in the areas of Dubai Hills Estate, parts of Jumeirah Bay Island, and several towers in the downtown corridor have shown stronger year-on-year growth in 2024 than the Palm's fronds villas. More important than the price trend is the occupancy and usage data. A survey conducted by the community management platform Debizzle Property in the fourth quarter of 2024 estimated that between 22 and 28% of Palm fronds villas show consistent signs of non-occupancy, meaning they are not primary residences, not in active short-term rental programs, and not visibly maintained at regular intervals. 25% vacancy on what was marketed as the most desirable address in the Middle East. That is not a symbol of prestige. That is supply overhang problem dressed in marble. The infrastructure data adds another layer. The TomTom Traffic Index has consistently ranked the Palm Jumeirah's connection points, specifically the intersection of Palm West Beach and the main trunk road, among the most congested in all of Dubai, despite the fact that a meaningful fraction of the island's units are not being actively used, which means that when occupancy is full, the road network cannot absorb the demand. The Palm was designed for a specific scale of habitation. It has been built beyond that scale. Now let's talk about the physical structure itself, because this is a part that the real estate market has not yet fully priced, and it is the part that matters most to anyone with a long-time horizon. In the Palm Jumeirah was constructed using a technique called vibrocompaction, in which sand dredged from the seafloor is sprayed into position and then mechanically compacted to achieve a density sufficient for construction. The technique was not new in 2001. What was new was the scale at which it was applied and the environment in which it was used. The Arabian Gulf is corrosive. Salt content, water temperature, and biological activity in the Gulf create a degradation environment for concrete and steel that is measurably more aggressive than open ocean. The American Society of Civil Engineers published a detailed review in 2019 noting that reinforced concrete structures in the Arabian Gulf degrade at a rate requiring active maintenance programs, typically beginning within 10 to 15 years of construction. Many Palm villas are now in that window. The difficulty is that maintenance on a man-made island is not the same as maintenance in a normal residential neighborhood. The fronds are partially surrounded by water on all sides. Substructure access requires marine equipment. The cost to properly inspect and remediate structural issues in frond-facing villas. According to engineering consultants familiar with the area who spoke to the Gulf Business Journal in 2023, runs between 3 and 6 times the cost of equivalent repairs in a conventional onshore development. That cost is currently falling on individual villa owners, not on Nakheel and not on the Dubai government. The maintenance liability is privatized. The prestige was collective. The bill is individual. Here is the line that cuts through all of it. The Palm was engineered for a specific lifespan with a specific maintenance assumption built in. That assumption was that owners would be wealthy, present, and motivated to invest in ongoing upkeep. Instead, a significant fraction of the owner base has treated the Palm as a store of value, not a place of habitation. They are not present. They are not maintaining. And the sea does not wait. The stratification of impact here follows the pattern that anyone watching Dubai closely will recognize. For the ultra-wealthy, the ones who paid $80 to $100 million or more for signature properties on the Crescent, the impact is currently negligible. Their properties are staffed. They have maintenance programs. Some have undertaken full structural surveys and preemptive remediation. When you can afford a full-time estate manager, the degradation of the man-made island around you is an inconvenience, not a financial threat. A handful of these owners have even spoken semi-publicly about the situation, treating it as an opportunity to acquire neighboring properties at softened prices for the middle layer. The buyer who spent $2 to $5 million on a frond villa as a retirement home, an investment property generating rental income, or a second residence for seasonal visits. The situation is more concerning. These are buyers who cannot absorb a $400,000 structural remediation bill without material impact. They are often absentee owners whose property managers have incentivized them to underspend on maintenance in order to maximize short-term rental yields. To stand, they are increasingly competing in a rental market where newer developments off-island offer more modern finishes, better road access, and no structural uncertainty at comparable or lower price points. And that's a look inside how Donald Trump travels when everything is planned down to the smallest detail. Not just luxury, but control, timing, and access at a level few people ever experience. From private jets to tightly coordinated movements, every trip is designed to be efficient, secure, and far from ordinary. Because at that level, travel isn't just about getting from one place to another. It's about influence, presence, and the ability to move through the world on your own terms. But it raises a bigger question. How much of that lifestyle is visible to the public, and how much happens completely out of sight? If you found this interesting, subscribe for more stories that explore the hidden side of power, wealth, and influence. There's always more happening behind the scenes.